Hey everyone, Keelam again, this time with a meta team guide. So this is a series where I'm going to basically take all the cool new stuff that's being introduced into the game and then showing you the teams that they fit within. So I've pre-made a bunch of cool old teams for us to take a glance at. Let us start with the super amazing new Hero Fan class. When we open up this bad boy... Okay, yeah, so there's nothing... Sorry, this is just like a meme team. Hierophant's not that great of a class. Admittedly, if you are trying to use Hierophant, it's only effective at 100, and that's only because it gets access to Fireblade. Don't use Hierophant. There's really no reason. I am sorry. I just had to do it for the lulz. Anyway, looking at this team, we can see that we're actually doing some pretty cool stuff. So this is using the new King Gobtruffle troop. So if you haven't seen him before, he's doing damage to all. You can also just pull him out of the latest Manithrax Delve kingdom that's in the underworld over there. But what he's all about is damage to all and then creating green and brown. So that's pretty cool right off the bat. That's actually a pretty decent amount of green and brown. It's about 8 and 8. So then you also gain an extra turn because he's a good old gobbo. And then he's also diseasing people randomly when you do 4 or more matches. I don't know why they phrase it this way, but so be it. But this is going to be able to generate a decent amount of mana for you, and you're getting an extra turn every time you cast him anyway. So obviously if we're going to be using Mr. Gobtruffle, we have to put him with green and brown using kind of troops. And we've got a brown troop that makes even more green, so that's cool. Forest Troll, if you're not aware, is also a really decent frontliner. He's doing 33% skull reduction, and he's entangling every time he hits someone with a skull. So very nice frontliner, fits super nicely with King Gobtruffle. Then we're using Doomglaive. Doomglaive is turning all browns into Doomskulls, so every time you cast Gobtruffle, you have a chance to just take all those browns and turn them straight into Doomskulls, so that's pretty neato. And then if you scroll all the way over here and you have it leveled up to at least 9, you get to create a Leaf Storm every single time you cast your Doomglaive. So this is going to allow you to create lots of green mana. This is going to obviously fit super nicely with the team that's creating green mana, creating even more green mana. So that's all super nice. And then Mirage Queen's in here because it's an elemental type. It's getting all elementals 50% mana start. And Forest Troll's an elemental, and King Gobtruffle's an elemental. So these guys are going to have 50% mana start as well as this guy. So your Archer also just naturally has 50% mana start. So every single person on this team has 50% mana start. That's super cool. So basically the flow of this team is get your mana for Forest Troll, get Forest Troll rolling, and then this team just starts to face roll everybody in the planet. That's super great. So this team, very, very effective, very, very nice. Strongly recommend. Give it a shot. Looking at the third meta team here that I've made, so this is using Sheggra's Spine. So this was used a couple events ago. This was our mixed giant type weapon, which is creating blues and browns. And also what's cool about this weapon is if you scroll all the way over here, it creates a firestorm every single time you cast it. So that's super noteworthy. Now, I'm sure you're thinking, why isn't Jarl Firebrand on this team? Because he's a red dude, and he takes red and brown, so that would seem to be super synergistic, and you're not wrong. You can totally use Jarl instead of Jotner if you'd like. I think I prefer Jotner, however, just simply because I find that Jarl is not necessarily the most reliable mana generator, even though he does make a decent amount. The ability to just use Jotner as your barrier generator as well as just a super nuker ends up fitting this team super nice. So since this is boosting based on giants, we have a 4-giant team. Flame Troll's here just to keep all that Firestorm red mana flying, so you can just create even more red mana with Flame Troll here. Hyndla is here because she's just pumping the crap out of all of your giants, and this is really the crux of this team is Hyndla being in here. So all the magic generation that you're going to create as a result of all the looping you're creating with just even these 2 troops, it's just going to make Jotner just decide to assassinate whoever he wants whenever he wants. So within like 1 to 2, 3 turns, you're going to basically be able to assassinate anyone you want with Jotner. I promise you this team just loops out of control. So this team also insanely effective. You'll have tons of barriers, you'll have tons of mana generation, you've got a freeze built into it, you even have summons in there if you really need them, and all the summons will obviously fit nicely with your Sheggra Spine anyway. And then Jotner's just there to assassinate and barrier people. So this team also is very fun to use and also very effective. This is using the Champion of Gaard. So Champion of Gaard, if you don't know, is creating tons of mana, blue and red, and then also giving himself a crap ton of armor. I basically next to never get this double armor thing to trigger. I honestly don't even really think it's worth trying to get it to trigger. I also think that this is also pretty unnoteworthy. The main reason that you were trying to use Champion of Gaard is just creating a super tanky dude in the front, and then hopefully you're putting blue people underneath him. All the red that he creates just goes right back into himself, so you want to be putting blue people underneath him, and lo and behold, we have blue people beneath him. Doomblade is pretty much the perfect partner to Champion of Gaard. This is because it's a blue weapon in and of itself, and then it also turns all red into Doomskulls. So basically, having a dude who creates a bunch of blue mana for you, and then also creates a bunch of red mana for you, is the perfect Doomblade counterpart. So these two being together, super, super nice. Champion of the Gaard, to get him started, we've got Mercy in here, which is also giving us access to Cleanse, so this is super helpful. And then Possessed King's in here just so we can blow up and blow up and blow up and blow up the board over and over and over again. Since we're running Sunspear, it's just going to be raining reds down from the sky constantly, which means Champion of Gaard should be able to just constantly loop once you get him started. So this team also extremely effective. Admittedly, Champion of the Gaard is not the most effective troop, however with this team specifically, you can actually do some good stuff with them. And then finally, we actually have a War Priest team. So we're using War Priest in this instance for a couple of reasons. One is because War Priest is a human type, and the Orpheus verse weapon here is boosting based on human allies. So we wanted a 4-human team. And the other reason we're using this class, I can actually show you, is, well, first off, it's got skull reduction, so this is also pretty cool. We can ignore this 50% to stun thing, this isn't all that interesting. But it has some natural skull resistance, so that's pretty cool. It makes for a good frontliner. But then secondly, we also get creating a light storm at the start of a battle. So that's really going to help this team for this reason. We have Divine Ishbala, so she's a very strong yellow mana generator herself. She turns all green into yellow, and then she also turns all reds into skulls. And she also gives all Divines 40% mana start, so that's also pretty cool. Which means we've got another Divine on the team who also is human. The cool reason that Voice of Orpheus is here is because since we're creating so much yellow with the Lightstorm start and Divine Ishbala on our team, we're getting a cleanse pretty much constantly. You never really need to worry about debuffs. The only reason you would have to worry about debuffs is if your Voice of Orpheus specifically gets stunned. Otherwise, you can just constantly cleanse your team over and over and over again, so the other team's going to be pretty sad about that. He also has a really strong nuke, so this is boosted by all of the mana that you have on your team. So you want to have your team as close to full mana, if not full mana, every single time you want to cast Voice of Orpheus. However, if you want to just give your team mana, you can also cast Voice of Orpheus because he gives everybody 5 mana when you cast him. So in terms of just raw damage, you usually can end up doing like 60 to 80 with just his nuke, and that's pretty darn cool. On top of that, you just get cleansing if you cast him, you get cleansing if you match yellows, and he gives people on your team mana. I'm a big fan of Voice of Orpheus, and he happens to fit this lineup very nicely. And then, of course, Possessed King's in here just because with all this fun looping going on, you want to just constantly be getting more and more and more mana. You'll have that Lightstorm start, so you'll just be getting more yellow and even more yellow and even more yellow. So that's also cool. And he's a human. Who would have thought? So once again, this team's super great. Lightstorm start, 40% skull reduction, tons of mana generation with these two troops, and then you've got all the cleansing on the planet. You can basically kill on turn 1 with this as long as you get like a single 4-5 match. Your team will just kind of run itself from there. However, again, super effective team. Since we have a Skull Maker, we've got a class that has some skull reduction. I have found a reason to use the War Priest, so you are welcome. But those are the meta teams that you can take advantage of now. So look forward to these kinds of videos. I'll show you these teams that you can take advantage of. Feel free to use them, build upon them, whatever it is that floats your boat. But nice and easy for you guys to pick it up. I'll put all the codes in the description so you guys can use these teams for yourself. So this is Keylime signing off, and I will see you guys in the next one.